When you look around, electricity is everywhere. Even the screen you're using to read this blog is powered by electricity. But where does this electricity come from? As far as many of us concerned, electricity is almost magical. But science is behind the miraculous electricity that flows into our homes and business. And we can explain it. Electricity is a secondary energy source. This means that it's not available in nature for us to gather and use. The main primary energy sources are oil, natural gas, coal, solar radiation, wind power, and tidal power. The electricity that powers the fridges in our homes and the screens of the devices we use to connect the internet every day are largely powered by these sources. When we say secondary energy source, we mean that electricity is generated by firstly transforming a primary energy source. Naturally, producing energy entails doing more than just gathering large amounts of primary energy sources. Electricity is being around long enough to have always been part of everyday life for many of us, and its discovery played a huge part in pushing forward human civilization and the Industrial Revolution. But who discovered it and how? Let's take a look into the history of electricity. You might just learn something you didn't know. Year by year, 1752, Benjamin Franklin proved static electricity and lightning were the same by tying a key onto a kite string during a storm. 1800, Alexandro Volta, namesake of the volt, he built the voltaic pile and discovered the first practical method of generating electricity. Count Volta also made meteorology and pneumatics. His most famous invention, however, is the first battery. 1821, Michael Faraday invented the first electric motor. Few inventions have shaped technology as much as the electric motor, but the very first version, the Faraday motor, didn't look anything like the modern motor. He built the first primitive motor about 1821, shortly after the discovery that an electric current produced a magnetic field. His motor featured a stiff wire in a container of mercury, a metal that is liquid at room temperature and an excellent conductor, and a permanent bar magnet in the center of the container. He sent electricity through the wire and create a magnetic field around it. This field interacts with the field around the magnet and causes the wire to rotate around the magnet. Even though it had no practical application, Faraday's invention was the first step in the evolution of the electric motor. 1879, first light bulb patent long before Thomas Edison patent. First in 1879 and then a year later in 1880 and began commercializing his incandescent light bulb. British inventors were demonstrating that electric light was possible with the arc lamp. In 1835, the first constant electric light was demonstrated, and for the next 40 years, scientists around the world worked on the incandescent lamp. 1882, Thomas Edison opened the first central electric power plant, Pearl Street Power Station in New York City, which could power 5,000 lights. Thomas Edison, United States, opened the Pearl Street Power Station in New York City. The Pearl Street Station was one of the world's first central electric power plants and could power 5,000 lights. The Pearl Street Station was a direct current DC power system. Unlike the power system that we use today, which use alternating current AC. 1882, hydropower became an electricity source in the late 19th century, a few decades after British-American engineer James Francis developed the first modern water turbine. 1882, the world's first hydroelectric power plant began operating in the United States along the Fox River in Appleton, Wisconsin. 1886, Nikola Tesla invented the electric alternator. Nikola Tesla, U.S. immigrant from Austrian Empire, invented the electric alternator from producing alternating current. Until this time, electricity had been generated using direct current from batteries. Sir Charles Algernon Parsons invented a steam turbine generator capable of generating huge amounts of electricity. 1888, Charles Brush used the first large windmill to generate electricity. The first electricity-generating wind turbine was invented in 1888 in Cleveland, Ohio by Charles F. Brush. The turbine's diameter was 17 meters 50 feet. It had 144 rotor blades made of cedar wood, and it generated about 12 kilowatts of power. They were used throughout rural areas in the United States to provide electricity to remote locations. The first modern air conditioner was invented in 1902 by the Willis Haviland Carrier, a skilled engineer who began experimenting with the laws of humidity control to solve an application of a printing plant in Brooklyn, New York. Borrowing from the concept of mechanical refrigeration established in the earlier years, today's air conditioners were operating on the same fundamental science of a Carrier's 1933 system incorporated advances in vapor compression, diagnostics and controls, electronic sensor materials and energy efficiency. In 1948, electricity was generated by a nuclear reactor for the first time ever on September 3, 1948 at the X-10 graphite reactor in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, US, which was the first nuclear power station to power a light bulb. On June 27, 1954, the world's first nuclear power station to generate electricity for a power grid, the Obninsk nuclear power plant. The discovery of electricity was a turning point of history because without it we wouldn't live in the world we live today, which is filled with life-changing technology, but it all needs uses electricity. Without electricity, you wouldn't be able to view this page or be on a computer at this very moment. Electricity is something that we all live by whether we notice it or not. Some of us wouldn't be able to survive without it, because it is most needed source to our everyday lives. It is used to help save people in education, hospitals, cities, etc. We live by this incredible creation that Mother Nature has given to us, and we have been able to control it with our very own hand throughout centuries, especially in this crazy changing world where things are being invented and created every day. It would not be possible without electricity.